The sole purpose of this video is to provide a basic overview and orientation of your new apparatus. This video is not intended to act as or replace individualized driver-operator training. Individual fire departments may base guidelines, policies, and procedures tailored for best practices. Pierce Manufacturing and Hughes Fire Equipment representatives are not liable for injuries caused from acts resulting from actions inconsistent with the information provided within this video and/or accompanying manuals. Refer to the Operation and Maintenance Manual for complete details relating to the components and features of this apparatus. Only trained personnel should operate this vehicle or perform maintenance. You are responsible for learning how to operate this fire apparatus under all conditions without having to refer to the manual while operating at an emergency incident. This video will discuss types of warnings and caution labels. It is your responsibility to locate and identify each of the labels and understand the importance and associated hazards. Warning labels will point out procedure that must be taken or action that must be avoided to guard against the possibility of serious injury or death. Caution labels will advise you that there is a risk of damage to property if certain precautions are not followed. Continuous training, reviewing of operation and service manuals, developing good standardized practices will assist driver operators with a more complete understanding of the components and operation of this fire apparatus. As the driver operator of this vehicle, you are responsible for understanding the function of each component of the apparatus, maintaining control of the fire apparatus at all times while in operation. Make operational and functional changes while operating at an emergency without having to read operator's instructions or safety warning labels. Operate manual override and emergency shutdown procedures immediately if a component fails to operate properly. Components location may vary with each Pierce fire apparatus. Review the exact location of each component prior to operation. Major inconsistencies between your vehicle and the information contained in this video should be directed to your sales representative. Safe operation of any vehicle is the responsibility of the driver operator. You must learn the location and function of all controls, switches, gauges, valves, inlets, and discharges. Due to a higher center of gravity, heavy trucks have a significantly higher rollover tendency than other types of vehicles. To reduce the risk of rollover, avoid making sharp turns, excessive speed, and avoid abrupt maneuvers. In the event of a rollover crash, an unbelted person is significantly more likely to become injured or die than a person wearing a seatbelt. In the event of a crash, unbuckled occupants can also become a hazard to other occupants, as they may be thrown around inside the cab. Seatbelts are required while in operation. Please refer to your warranty certificates for details and information enclosed in your manuals. Customer-installed equipment must be mounted to withstand road travel and comply with NFPA 1901. Modifications such as drilling holes or welding to structural frame components of the chassis are not permitted. Contact Pierce for instruction and review of non-structural sheet metal or other dissimilar metals for modification. Follow the radio installation guide for further assistance on installing or mounting electronics. Before placing your new apparatus into service, perform a primary inspection of key components of the apparatus, including all fluid levels, anti-lock braking systems, electronic stability control, and automatic traction control. Weigh your apparatus to ensure that it conforms to axle and brake ratings. Never exceed the gross axle rating printed on the label inside the cab. Exceeding these ratings could lead to reduced component life, personal injury, or death. Review the use of auxiliary braking systems, compression brake, exhaust brake, electronic retarder, and hydraulic retarder. Before placing the apparatus in service, refer to the operational maintenance manuals. Information on the operation and maintenance functions for the components such as the pump, pressure governor, and foam systems, along with other options, is provided in either the Pierce manuals and/or other manufacturer support information delivered with the apparatus. If you need more information, please contact Hughes Fire Equipment. Congratulations, Gladstone Fire Department, Oregon, on your new Pierce fire apparatus, job number 34832. Please utilize this 5-digit job number when referencing your apparatus with Hughes Fire Equipment and Pierce Manufacturing. We'll get started on a brief orientation of your new vehicle. Starting on the front bumper face, passenger and driver's side, you'll find dual air horns. As we move just inside of that location, on the passenger side, you'll find your mechanical siren. Moving over to the driver's side, you'll find your PA speaker and electronic siren. As we move up onto the top of the bumper extension, you'll find a tubbed storage location for your front bumper load. Moving over to the driver's side, you'll find a swivel discharge. Let's move up onto the cab face. On the outer edges, you'll find a clearance light. Just inside of that location, you'll find your turn indicator. Moving further inside of that location, you'll find your headlight structure housing the low and high beam headlights. The high beam is on the inside. As we move up, you'll find emergency warning lights forward facing. Directly behind the Pierce logo is where you'll find the latch to gain access into the hood area. As we move up onto the windshield, you'll find 3 windshield wipers across the seamless one-piece windshield. Moving out to the outer edges to your mirrors, you'll find a flat and convex mirror controlled from within the driver's space. As we move up to the brow, you'll find 5 clearance lights. Located directly in the center is a forward-facing floodlight. And then as we move up onto the roof of the apparatus, you'll find your emergency warning light bar. Inside that light bar, you'll find your Opticom directly in the center. Let's take a look at some close-ups of the items that we just talked about. First, let's start behind the Pierce logo. That's where the latch is located to gain access into the hood. As we move down to the bumper extension, you'll find a emergency warning light on the side of the bumper extension, and then as we move toward the driver's side, you'll find your water discharge. It is foam capable. Let's take a look now at the side of the vehicle, or on the driver's side. Let's focus in on the cab, first starting with the bumper extension, where you'll find a side-facing emergency warning light. As we move all the way to the very back side of the cab, you'll find an additional emergency warning light. These 2 lights are part of the lower warning zone lights. As we move up to the door handle, you'll find a gloved hand can easily access this. It is also keyed. As we move just to the side of the door entrance, you'll find a grab handle at all points of entry. You'll also find 2 doors located, one at the upper portion, one down at the lower cab wall. At the very top section, you'll find a side-facing scene light. As we move toward the rear cab wall, you'll find an LED water level indicator. And then at the very top section, you'll find an upper emergency warning light. Let's take a look at the wheels. We have Alcoa wheels, also Goodyear tires. Located in the center, you'll find a sight gauge. Let's take a look at that rear bottom section of the cab area. Pan door located here. D handle gains access. As we move over the front axle, you'll find adjustable shelving, LED lighting. Let's move down midship location. We'll start at the very top in the upper left-hand corner. Behind the polished stainless steel door, lift and turn latches will gain you access to backboard storage locations accessible from the passenger and driver's side. You'll also find 2 cross lays, 1.5-inch discharge on both of those. I'd also like to point out this warning label that there is the possibility of entanglement because of those lines coming from aloft. We have the number 1 cross lay and the number 2 cross lay, once again both foam capable. Let's move down to the pump panel area, first starting on the very left-hand side with a placard. This is your Husky 3 foam system specifications and instructions. And then just to the right, you'll find your red module, which is your Husky foam system. There's operating instructions on the red placard, along with an LED light indicator for foam level tank A. As we move to the gray section, you'll find the master intake gauge, and then just to the right, you'll find the master discharge gauge. Between the 2 of those gauges are your test gauge ports for vacuum and pressure. They're currently plugged, and those are for testing purposes. Let's move further to the right, where you'll find your throttle pressure governor. You'll also find a green indicator that it's okay to engage the pressure throttle governor, and also an audible alarm. The outer edge of that audible speaker does allow you to dampen or brighten the sound. As we move to the upper right, you'll find a set of switches for your pump panel. You'll also find an OK to pump LED indicator indicating that your pump is properly engaged. As we move down to the lower left, you'll find the front discharge and also number 1 and number 2 crosslay. Moving just to the right, you'll find the reel rewind. It is a push button switch. And then just beneath that, you'll find the reel discharge, once again foam capable. As we move further to the right, you'll find a wheel valve. This is going to be for your deluge discharge. It is the pink in color. As we move further to the right, you'll find your rear discharge and then also your number 4 discharge. That's the green. As we move downward from this location, we're going to find the number 1, number 2, and number 3 driver's side 2.5-inch discharges. And then you'll also find an additional wheel here. This is your large diameter passenger side discharge green. Moving further to the right, just below the Pierce logo is where you'll find your fire pump primer. It is an air push to prime. There are instructions just beneath that, 1,000 RPMs for best practices. To the right, you'll find a water tank level indicator, and then also you'll find your tank fill and tank to pump. In the upper right-hand corner, you'll find 2 twist style discharges. These are going to be engine cooler and recirculating. As we move down to the lower left, you'll find 2 2.5-inch discharges. You'll also find this safety label here and also a placard regarding the minimum operation maintenance schedule. We'll go over that in just a moment. As we move down, you'll find your large diameter pump intake. Moving just to the right, a placard indicating that only trained personnel should operate this piece of equipment and only after they've received proper training. I also like to point out fall hazard warning information here. Always face the vehicle when climbing. And as we move down, you'll find a pressure warning hazard. Caps may be under pressure. Be cautious when opening them. As we move to the right, you'll find your main pump drain and then also an additional access door in the upper portion to gain access into the pump panel area. Let's move down to the next section here. We'll find our 2.5-inch discharge. This is a female ball valve. Moving just to the right, you'll find your Watrous placard indicating the type of pump that you have. Moving further to the right, we've got a warning label here regarding do not mix different brands or consistencies of foam for the possibility of foam failure. Just beneath that, you'll find your foam operations for draft and tank. And then just to the right, you'll find an additional lift and turn, gains access to foam operations, and we'll go over that in just a moment. There are also all of our color-coded and labeled discharge drains across the very bottom. Let's take a look in the upper pan door where you'll find your foam drain. And as we look down to the lower section, you'll also find your foam fill operations. The instructions are on the back side of the panel door. And so again, in the upper right-hand corner, your foam drain. Let's move now to the pump panel on the very left-hand side. You'll find a tool storage location. And then as we look down into the very bottom section here, you'll find a tub storage location for hose. Let's go look at the Watrous placard. You have a 1,500 GPM pump and a CSU pump model. As we move to the minimum operation maintenance schedule for 150, 200, and 250 PSI, on the left-hand side is the associated GPM at that test pressure, and on the right-hand side is the associated RPM for that test pressure. We also have the 43832 5-digit job number in the upper left-hand corner. As we move down to the very bottom, you'll find your foam pump intake drain and foam pump discharge drain. Let's take a look at the rest of the body, where we'll find down at the lower section in front of and rear of the axle our folding wheel chock storage location. As we move up to the very top, you'll find 2 drafting hoses. And then as we move to the very back section, you'll find a side-facing floodlight and then also a 360-degree emergency warning light on the very back wall. Let's take a look inside some of the compartments. Let's first start with the one right next to the pump panel. Adjustable shelving. This has a pegboard on the very back section and also dry deck and LED material lighting. As we move just in front of and rear of the axle, you'll find SCBA bottle storage with retaining straps. Directly over the axle, you'll find a lower warning side. And then as we move to the fill door, you'll find exposing currently is the silver ultra low sulfur diesel. As we move back to the left, you'll find SCBA bottle storage for 2 and also an oxygen bottle storage. Let's go back to the fuel door where we lower this flap to the lowering position. That exposes the blue. DEF cap, which is going to be 4.5 US gallons. Let's move to the next compartment back, where you'll find once again LED lighting, dry deck material, and adjustable shelving. Let's move around to the rear of the apparatus. We'll find down at the very bottom our perimeter lighting. As we move toward the center and outer edges, you'll find your clearance lights, and then all the way to the outer right and left side, you'll find an additional clearance light on a rubber arm. Moving just up from that location, you'll find a cluster housing emergency light, brake light, turn light, and reverse lights. Just inside of that location in the notch area, you'll find a fold down step. There's also one on the upper left-hand side for gaining access to the hose bed. You'll find two switches here. We'll talk about those in just a moment. As we move up, you'll also find two access doors located here. These are both lift and turn latches to gain you access inside. And then you'll find your backup camera on the left-hand side in the image. And as we move up from that location and slightly inside of that location, you'll find a 2.5-inch rear discharge. Also located directly in the center is your traffic advisor. Moving from this location to the upper left and right-hand side, you'll find a rear scene light. And once again, all the way at the very top, emergency warning lights. As we move all the way to the very far right-hand side, you'll find two lift and turn latches will gain you access into the storage location. Let's take a look at some close-ups. Let's go back to those first two switches, rear scene lights and hose bed lights. As we move up from this location, you'll find your backup camera and license plate holder. Moving just inside of this location, got a few warning labels. First, we have a fall hazard, never ride on the vehicle when it's in motion, and then also a pressure hazard located on the right. The very upper section, this is a 2.5-inch rear discharge. It is foam capable, and it's your number one rear. As we move to the passenger and driver's side, you'll find storage location here for additional hose and also a tool, warning label regarding entanglement hazard. As we move to the lower section, you'll find an adjustable shelving and LED lighting, dry deck material. Let's move now over to the other side, where we'll find an additional storage location for hose and also a tool in the upper portion. As we move to the long compartment, you'll find a storage location on those lift and turn latches in the very back. And just a top view here, we have our Class A foam in the dunnage area. There's also a warning label, do not mix different brands or consistencies of foam. And then also top fill location for our water tank. On the left-hand side, you'll find your 14-foot and 24-foot extension ladder. Let's go ahead and take in a few images here of the ladder in the deployed position. You'll find that the lights will illuminate, indicating front and rear of that area for safety. You'll also find two release mechanisms for accessing the 24-foot and 14-foot ladder. And then as we look at the very top section, you'll find a D-handled roof hook. And then on the inside, a 10-foot folding attic ladder. Just a quick view here. Once again, we have a front section with its compartment off on the upper portion. Lift and turn latch will gain you access into this area. Just a quick review on the foam tanks. This is your foam Class A. Warning label here regarding do not mix different brands or consistencies. As we move to the right, you'll find your top fill location for your water tank. Let's move now into the dunnage area. You'll find your master stream device directly in the center. You'll also find your booster line, red line, located on the left-hand side in this image. You'll also find a manual rewind location for a tool. And then just to the right, you'll find the free spool or tension on the right-hand side of the reel. Let's look to the front section of the cab. This is a non-walking surface, and we have some warning labels here indicating that it is dangerous. There is the possibility of fall hazard, including not having any railing. Let's move around now to the passenger side rear compartment, where you'll find a pull-out tray on the lower section. The release mechanism is on the right. It will lock into position, and you'll need to release it with the release on the right-hand side. As we move just forward over the axle, you'll find SCBA bottle storage location for 6 SCBA bottles with retaining straps. You'll also find directly over the axle an emergency warning light. This is part of the lower side warning. And as we move into the compartment at the top section, you'll find a D handle gains access to the back side of the tool board. Here's a couple of close-ups here of the front and rear SCBA bottle storage and also retaining straps. Let's move back up into that upper compartment and take a look when it's in the open position. This will lock into position. You will need to raise the lock mechanism and restore back to its original position. As we look in front of the axle, you'll find your exhaust, extremely hot diesel exhaust temperatures. Be cautious where you park your vehicle, especially when you're doing a regen. As we move to the forward section, you'll find adjustable shelving and also LED lighting. Let's move now to the mid section. At the very top section, we have a lift and turn latch. We'll gain access into this area where your Husky 3 foam system reservoir is located. This is the hydraulic reservoir, and this is where the fill location would be for that hydraulic oil. Let's move just to the right of this location. These are going to be our crosslays. There are two located here, crosslay 1 and crosslay 2, and also your backboard storage. Let's move downward from this location. We'll find two lift and turn latches. We'll gain you access behind the pump panel. As we move just to the right, you'll find a switch. This is your reel rewind. Moving further to the right, you'll find your powered equipment rack. We'll go over that in just a few moments. And then I'd like to point out there are two discharges, 2.5 inch on this side. Moving downward from this location, and slightly to the right I should say, is where you'll find your large diameter pump intake. Moving further to the right, you'll find your large diameter pump discharge. It is the green color. It's reduced down to a 2.5. Discharge drains is down at the bottom, and then a 2.5 inch auxiliary passenger side inlet. It is a female inlet. Let's take a look now inside some of those Pandoras. This is your equipment rack hydraulic reservoir. It's got the information regarding the type of fluid for that hydraulic reservoir. And then as we look inside the next compartment, Pandora, you'll find this is your intake relief. It is adjustable. There are instructions on the placard. As we move to the upper right, we have two warnings. Warning regarding entanglement hazard, and then also fall, that you should always face the vehicle while climbing. A couple close-ups of the items we just talked about. First, starting with the 2.5 inch large diameter pump intake and that warning regarding pressure hazard. And then let's cover the powered equipment rack. As we move into this gray module here, we do have a danger information here because of that rack, and moving there's the possibility of crush. Also down in the lower section you'll find a informational to raise, and then also information here regarding to lower. We have a master on and off, which will indicate the green light, and then also an up down lever for lift. Let's move from this location down to the very bottom section where we'll find all of our color-coded and labeled discharge drains. Close up here of the 2.5 inch auxiliary inlet. It's a ball valve female. Let's move around now to the driver's side. We'll start with the driver's position door, where you'll find all of our safety and warning information on that door panel. You'll also find window control, door locks, and also a grab handle. As we move to the step well, you'll find a 30 amp auto eject plug and then also an air eject plug. When you're plugged into shore power, your battery voltage will become active, and you'll see an LED indicator illuminating that. As we move to about the right ankle of the operator, you'll find this placard manufactured for your department with the date of manufacture, 5-digit job number, gross vehicle weight rating, cold tire inflation, the VIN number, all of your fluid capacities for each component, fluid capacity, and fluid type. As we move about the left knee of the operator, we'll cover this. This is going to be our diagnostic information. We have a tech module, engine, transmission, and ABS diagnostic port, and also a display port. As we move down, we've got a few switches. First in the upper portion is ABS diagnostics and engine diagnostics. Down at the very bottom, we'll have our regen inhibit and then DPF regen switch. As we move to the steering wheel, you'll have emergency light controls and also windshield wiper controls on the steering column itself. You'll also have an airbag located within inside the front steering wheel. This is a supplemental restraint system. As we move to the left-hand side, you'll find a hazard light, start, and ignition. To the right, EM, which stands for Emergency Master, engages and disengages all emergency lights. To the right, your headlight switch, and then a switch labeled panel, which will brighten or dim lights within preview of the operator. All the way to the right on the opposite side of the steering column is your OK to engage the high idle switch and indicator. As we move up to the panel, you'll find your transmission, oil, DEF level, and water temp. On the right, you'll find your front and rear air, fuel level, volts, speedometer, and tachometer located in the center. Diagnostic information displays above and below the speedometer. Let's move just to the right where you'll find the yellow diamond, pull to apply the system parking brake or push to release. Moving further to the right, you'll find your Pierce command zone. Tremendous amount of information right here at your fingertips. You can utilize it with a gloved hand or push button on the screen. To the right, your Allison transmission pad with an informational note to pump in drive. And as we move to the right, we've got two switch panels. We'll go over those as we have a close-up. And as we move to the right, you'll find your mirror control for left and right. And then as we move downward, we'll find your pump shift, and we'll go over that also. Let's first start back with your command zone. Once again, please see your owner's manual, a tremendous amount of information for you right here at your fingertips. And then at the right, your Allison transmission pad. Let's take a look at the switches. We have memory switches at the top for backup override and load manager. You can see it's currently illuminated in green, indicating that it's active. As we move down, you'll find your engine brake on and off switch, settings for low, medium, and high, mirror heat, and off-road traction. As we look to the pump shift, you'll find instructions from road to pump, and then on the other side, you'll find from pump to road. For operations, you'll need to lift the yellow collar, pull downward to go into the pump position. You should see two green indicators, pump engaged and OK to pump. As we move just in front of, you'll find the defrost, heat, and air conditioning control unit. Just on the rear section of the panel, you'll find a 12-volt barrel style access. Let's move overhead of the operator's position, starting first on the left with this yellow placard indicating height 10 feet 8.62 inches, a length 31 feet 9.5 inches, gross vehicle weight rating 46,500 pounds. As we move further to the right, you'll find an emergency master, roof light, front warning, and side warning. The next section down, we've got our lower rear warning, upper rear warning, high beam flash, and opticom. Let's slide to the right where we'll find our driver's side scene and passenger side scene, front scene and rear scenes. As we move down, we've got a perimeter light, chassis horn. All the way to the far right, you'll find a siren brake. Let's move further to the right where you'll find your FireComm module. And as we move to the very center section, you'll find a seatbelt information, red indicating someone is in the seat and not belted, green indicating they're in the seat and belted. Directly in the center overhead, you'll find this red, do not move your apparatus if this light is on. It's indicating you have a compartment or door open. As we move behind the seat, we'll find a few items here. Let's first start at the very top with the S1, which stands for shore power. When plugged into shore power, this is the breaker panel for that. Moving just to the right, you'll find your battery charger. When plugged into shore power, this will be active. And then you'll also find to the very far right, the outlets when plugged into shore power will also become active. As we move downward, you'll find the backup camera speaker system. There is a volume control on it. Here's some close-ups of those items. Once again, S1, you can see you have an engine heater, battery charger, and also crew cab and receptacles. As we move, this is the battery charging system. As we move to the right-hand side, let's go inside the rear section of the cab, and we'll identify, once again, affixed to the door panel, all of our safety and warning information, window control, lock, and door latch. As we move inside, you'll find two seats on the rear wall. They are fold down and do house SCBA quick packs. You'll also find in the center adjustable shelving and also LED lighting. Inside that compartment, you'll also find an additional outlet. Once again, when plugged into shore power, this outlet will become active. Let's go ahead and look from the rear seats looking forward, where you'll find two locations, passenger and driver side, for additional storage areas, along with your air conditioning area at the very top section. Moving directly down in the center is where you'll find your rear section to gain access to the rear of the engine for all of your daily checks for oil and transmission. Let's go ahead and move now to the officer area. This is going to be the passenger side front seat. First, starting at the door panel, once again, safety and warning information. You'll also find as we move inside the cab, your vehicle is equipped with a supplemental restraint system, an airbag. Please don't mount anything within this area. As we look to the floorboard, you'll find your electronic siren and mechanical siren foot pedals. And then once again, you can see we do have a warning occupant crash protection equipped. That's regarding the SRS system located in the very front. As we move overhead, push on and off white or red lenses. And then also you'll find your traffic advisor control module. As we move just to the left, we're going to find your FireComm wireless base station module. And as we move further, you'll find the siren control and PA speaker system. We do have a switch panel in the officer's area. First, driver side scene, passenger side scene, front scene, rear scene, and a siren brake, and also an intense map reading light. As we move to the center section, this will be the left of the seat, you'll find your vehicle data recording port and also a 12-volt barrel style. Directly behind the seat when plugged into shore power, this outlet will be active. Congratulations, Gladstone Fire Department, on your new Pierce fire apparatus, job number 34832. If you have any questions about your vehicle, please contact your Hughes Fire sales representative. Thank you and congratulations.